ahead and open the staff hearing officer meeting of May 17th, 2023. We'll start with preliminary matters. Any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of ex-agenda items? I have none. And then B is any announcements and appeals. I don't have any announcements today and no appeals, good thing. Then C, I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment for items not on today's agenda. I may ask Ms. Good, do we have anybody joining us via Zoom who wishes to speak?
Looking at Zoom, I do not see anyone with a raised hand at all. Thank you.
Does anyone in the room wish to speak? Okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment then. Again, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. Ellen Kokinda, the staff hearing officer today, and now I will move it on to our regular first agenda item, item A. This is a project at 1244 Shoreline Drive. It is a 5,662 square foot lot. It's developed with a one-story, 1,116 square foot residence and an attached 245 square foot garage with roof deck. The project consists of two story additions totaling 730 square feet. The second story is proposed as a 320 square foot accessory dwelling unit. The project also includes expanding the existing garage by 143 square feet to provide a two-car garage. A modification is required to allow the new garage to encroach 5 feet 7 inches into the front setback. The discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a front setback modification to allow the new garage to encroach the 5 foot 7 inches into the required 20-foot setback, a coastal development permit to allow the proposed development in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, and then to determine that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review. Pursuant to Municipal Code 28.44.110, when a proposed development does involve the addition of an accessory dwelling unit to an existing single-family residence, the application is reviewed without a public hearing, which follows the government code. So I will not issue, the staff hearing officer shall not issue a decision on the application until at least 10 calendar days after notice has been provided. And I can review written correspondence, but again, there's not a hearing on the accessory dwelling unit. And my action for the accessory dwelling unit is final. That's separate from the modification. Okay, so Ms. Brodesson is here to present the project, and then we'll carry on with the applicant's presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Kokinda, or good morning. So yes, the front setback modification is to allow the garage to encroach into the setback along Shoreline Drive. And I'll show you the pictures of the front of the house. Which one is the actual house here? Context photos. Is this it? No. That's the actual house? So, okay. Oh, here they are. 22, 21. So you can see that the way the garage is facing the street now, and they want to add, as you stated, they want to do a one-story addition and a second-story ADU. So they will reorient the garage to be turned sideways, or I'm sorry, to be facing Shoreline Drive. And the existing garage now is non-conforming to the setbacks or to the minimum dimensions. So the proposed garage, and you will see here, so now you have to turn in to get into the garage here, which takes up a lot more driveway space and front yard area. So the proposed garage is to be reoriented to face Shoreline Drive. Here's the new driveway. And it will encroach into this front setback along Shoreline Drive by approximately 5 foot 7 feet. The required setback there is 20 feet. So we would be reducing the setback to 14 feet 5 inches. The staff supports this modification because it allows the garage to be brought up to conforming standards, and it will reduce the amount of paving in the front yard. And also there is a large public right-of-way on Shoreline Drive that looks as if it acts as a front yard, so it wouldn't be imposing any negative impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. And the accessory dwelling unit, as you stated, is in the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, but does not allow a public hearing, but it complies with all of the accessory dwelling unit standards. And it is a small second-story addition, and the project was also reviewed by the Single Family Design Board, and the consent reviewer forwarded it to the full board, and they reviewed it on March 27th, and the board found that the project was compatible with the neighborhood, which is a mix of 1- and 2-story dwelling units, and this addition is fairly small in relation to most of the dwelling units. So staff recommends that you approve the project, making the findings in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit A. And that concludes staff's presentation, and we have Mr. Eric Bear here to present on behalf of the applicant.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brodson. Mr. Bear, if you'd like to join us. Just walk through if you want to talk a little bit about your project, any considerations, how you got here.
Great. Yeah. Good morning, Ms. Kokinda. So Ms. Broderson did a nice job explaining the project. I don't have too much to add. I'm just zooming in on the site plan here, familiarize myself with the controls. So you can see here, as she mentioned, the existing one-car garage has side entry, and we explored many different ways to try to get a 2-car garage, which was important to the owners of the property. They've owned this property for some time and used it as a second home, but they've now, several years ago, moved here and are living here full-time and looking at just making some minor upgrades that make that more comfortable for full-time residency. And so we explored many different ways to try to give them a 2-car garage without disrupting the existing home. If I go to the next sheet for the proposed floor plan, let me go to the existing floor plan first. So you can see the existing garage here. And, there's not too many options we can do here. We could either extend the garage back, which would push the garage back into the existing kitchen, which was very disruptive, or pull it forward. And by pulling it forward, we're able to keep the existing kitchen. It's got the existing width that complies with the 20-foot minimum dimension, but now we're able to give them the minimum 20-foot depth, and we're not proposing to exceed that minimum depth. We're just giving them the minimum there. And if we go back to the site plan, as Ms. Brodson mentioned, we're encroaching that front setback 5'7", but given the large 40-foot right-of-way, we've got more than that distance from the public sidewalk to the actual property line, so we still maintain the appearance of a 20-foot setback from the sidewalk to the front of the garage. And I would just add, I'll share with you the elevations. I would just add that there's quite a bit of precedence for this in the Shoreline Drive and general Shoreline neighborhood, with lots of front-facing garages that are pushed forward. I think this was probably a similar condition for many homes that have done a similar expansion over the years, but you can see here the proposed front elevation with the garage forward-facing. There's an existing roof deck above the garage that we're not proposing to extend forward into that setback. It'll remain where it is, and there'll just be a flat roof above that new area of garage. And I think that's it for my presentation, and I can help answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up public comment for this particular item, 1244 Shoreline Drive. Ms. Gu, do we have anybody joining us via Zoom who wishes to speak?
I'm looking on Zoom. I do not see any raised hands at all.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't see any raised hands here, so I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. And just to confirm that I did not receive any written correspondence regarding this project. So I'll close public comment and transition back to questions. Honestly, I don't have too many questions. I did follow this project at the Single Family Design Board, so I'm very familiar with the design thinking that went into it and how it was pulled from consent to bring to the full board. I went out to the site, so I'm quite familiar with it. And having spent a lot of time looking at Shoreline Drive, there's not, it's a fairly straightforward project. Again, just for procedurally, I'm going to have to make a decision on the modification first and then do the coastal development permit. So I'll keep it short, but ultimately I can approve the front setback modification as I didn't have, there's quite a precedent for with a lot of non-conforming front setbacks along shoreline, and the fact that this project is bringing the garage, the covered parking into conformance, and again, not necessarily reducing a lot of the pavement, producing less pavement. It's supported by the single-family design board, at least the aesthetics of it were appropriate. So I can say that it meets the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance, because again, it's really maintaining the essential characteristics of a single-family residence, and it's an appropriate improvement on the site. It'll be a nice project, and I appreciate the fact that you're not bringing the roof deck further into that setback. So I appreciate the design consideration there. And I can also say that this project is further exempt from environmental review under section 15303. I agree with staff's assessment on that. Following the staff report and just kind of turning direction to the coastal development permit, having looked at the project, I can say that the accessory dwelling unit is consistent with the policies of the California Coastal Act, and it will not have any adverse impacts to the coast or any kind of coastal resources, for all the reasons stated in the staff report, and that it's consistent with all applicable policies of the city's local coastal plan and our guidelines and municipal code, and that my decision for all of these is this approval is it's subject to the conditions of approval that are listed here in the staff report. Did you have any questions about them? Okay. Again, I agree with staff's recommendation, and that is my decision. Again, for the modification, there is a 10-day appeal process, and this that anyone can submit an appeal within 10 calendar days of the decision. Otherwise, good luck with your project. You'll have to move on to single-family design board again, and thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. All right, moving on. We've got our second item today. Item B is 467 and 471 West Mountain Drive. This project consists of a lot line adjustment between two adjoining parcels, 467 West Mountain Drive, parcel 1, and 471 West Mountain Drive, which is identified as parcel 2. The existing lot configuration consists of parcel 1 with 1.001 acres and parcel 2 with 1.301 acres. Following the adjustment, parcel 1 would increase to 1.177 acres and parcel 2 would be reduced to 1.124 acres. Let's see. So the discretionary applications under the jurisdiction of the staff hearing officer required for this project are a lot line adjustment to allow the property line between the two subject lots to be relocated, a lot area modification to allow 467 West Mountain Drive, parcel 1 to be granted relief from the lot area requirement of 1.5 acres for lots with an average slope of 10% to 20%. And then, let's see. Moving down, a street frontage modification to allow 471 West Mountain Drive, parcel 2 to be granted relief from the street frontage requirement of 100 feet minimum frontage on a public street. And then lastly, D, to confirm that the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15305, minor alterations and land use limitations. So we have Ms. Plummer here today, who is the assigned case planner, to go over the presentation. Ms. Gu, do you mind switching over? Thank you. Whenever you're ready, and then I'll invite the applicants up.
Thank you, Ms. Gokinda. Again, I'm Pilar Plummer, Associate Planner with the City of Santa Barbara Planning and Zoning Division. And the project we'll be reviewing today is located at 467 and 471 West Mountain Drive. On the screen is just an aerial vicinity shot of the project location. We'll be reviewing, again, two parcels since this is a lot line adjustment. To the left is a triangular shaped lot. That's parcel 1, 467, and the rectangular shaped lot is 471 West Mountain Drive. This is just a street view of an existing driveway which accesses both properties from Mountain Drive. And the overall project description, there's no development proposed. The project is specifically a lot line adjustment between the two properties. Parcel 1 is currently vacant, and Parcel 2 is developed with an existing single-unit residence and garage. The purpose of the meeting is a lot line adjustment to allow a property line between the two subject lots to be relocated, a lot area modification specific to Parcel 1 so that that parcel can be granted relief from the lot area requirement of 1.5 acres for lots that have an average slope between 10 and 20%, a street frontage modification to allow Parcel 2 to be granted relief from the street frontage requirement of 100 feet minimum frontage, and as well as a determination that the project is categorically exempt for 15305 minor alterations in land use limitations. This is just a table showing the existing site, so you'll see it's divided between Parcel 1 and Parcel 2. I did include the existing and proposed topography so you can see the change in slope. Parcel 1 will be slightly increasing, mostly because of the inclusion of the driveway, which we'll be covering a little bit more later. But it's increasing from 14.07 to 14.55%. And Parcel 2 will be decreasing slightly, so 9.32% to 8.21%. Both lots are low-density residential with a maximum one dwelling unit per acre, and again, Parcel 1 is vacant. Parcel 2 is developed with a residence. Just some general background about the properties. There was a prior lot line adjustment, not between these two specific properties, but between another prior adjoining lot, 465 West Mountain Drive and 471 Mountain Drive, as well as a tentative subdivision map associated with a lot split for 471 that resulted in 467 West Mountain Drive, as well as a street frontage modification at the time for the vacant lot because that lot does not have public street frontage off Mountain Drive. It utilizes the existing driveway that 471 West Mountain Drive has on their property. And in terms of the review authority for this hearing, it's subject to the staff hearing officer review because it involves 4 fewer properties. This is a zoning ordinance consistency table that was included in the staff report as well. Just noting the requirement, Parcel 1 has a different requirement to Parcel 2 based on the slope. So because Parcel 1 has an average slope between 10 and 20%. They're required to have 1.5 acres as the minimum net lot area, and Parcel 2 is only required to have 1 acre minimum since they are under 10%. And again, you'll see the existing slope increasing on Parcel 1 slightly and then reducing on Parcel 2, as well as the minimum lot area for Parcel 1 increasing slightly from 1.001 acres to 1.177, and then reducing on Parcel 2. Also, I included the public street frontage. So again, for Parcel 1, there's none currently, and it's not considered non-conforming since that did receive a formal modification approval by Planning Commission. And then for the request for this hearing, Parcel 2 is requesting modification to shift the public street frontage from Parcel 2 to Parcel 1. So now 471 will not have the public street frontage. So in terms of the modifications being requested, again, there's a lot area modification for Parcel 1. Again, the requirement is 1.5 acres. It's currently not meeting that, and it will remain so. They're proposing an average slope of 14.55%, and an increase in the lot area currently existing on site, which is part of the reason why staff is supportive of the project, because they will be more conforming to the lot area requirements under current standards. As well as a street frontage modification, and I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but on the right you'll see just an example of their lot line plan. Oh, there it is, perfect. I was like, where is my mouse?
I don't see it.
Okay. So This is the existing property going down, and then the shaded areas are where the lot line is actually being shifted over. So do you think it's important to note that with the lot line adjustment associated with the lot area modification, they are effectively reducing some of the developable portion of the vacant lot because they're giving the driveway access, which, right, that can't be developed. It's currently configured with the driveway. However, the applicant did include as part of the internal review when staff was reviewing the application, a reference-only plan just showing the developable ability of the vacant lot for a new residence and garage, given setbacks and easements already existing on the property. So this is that example plan, and this shows with, accepting if were the lot line adjustment to be approved, what that would look like, and allows for, again, a residence and detached garage. In terms of building code consistency that's required for the lot line adjustment, no, there's no physical improvements being proposed, again, on either lot. Staff did include a condition of approval, which was included as part of the staff report exhibits for as-built structures that are currently located on Parcel 1 to be demolished. And in terms of general plan consistency, the project site is located in the Cielito neighborhood, which generally has properties exceeding 1 acre in size, also involving steep hillsides and open space, as well as low-density residential. It's the most restrictive of single-family residential areas, and the purpose to preserve integrity of the hillside environment, protect private property, and limited residential use. In the staff report as well, I included 2 policies that are applicable to the project. So low-density single-family residential areas to maintain and protect character and quality of life in single-family zone neighborhoods as a low-density residential community, and to minimize development in areas where the slope exceeds 30%, so to not be permitted. In order for the staff hearing officer to approve the lot line adjustment, there's the Government Code Section 66412, part of the State Subdivision Act, and City Municipal Code 2740040 requires that the lot line adjustment be consistent with the city's general plan and zoning and building ordinances. So as described in the staff report as well as in this presentation, there are no consistency issues with the city's general plan or city zoning and building ordinances. The lot line adjustment results in a more equitable distribution of lot area between the 2 lots. It also increases the size of Parcel 1, which, as described earlier, currently doesn't meet the standards, and they are requesting a modification to increase the size, but still have it underneath the requirement, but it is closer to the requirement under current zoning ordinance. It allows both parcels to continue to utilize the existing driveway access and allows for a larger development buffer between Parcel 1 and Parcel 2. And I didn't really cover that too much. Maybe the applicant can cover that more in his presentation. But effectively, the lot line adjustment creates an additional buffer space. Right now, the existing residence is developed right to the setback line. So this allows for an increased buffer when the vacant lot is developed in the future. Environmental review, staff determined that the project is exempt per 15305, minor alterations and land use limitations, which specifically allows for lot line adjustments. And staff is recommending the staff hearing officer approve the project. If you have any questions, I'll be here.
Thank you, Ms. Plummer.
Oh,
Appreciate
and Mr. Angelides is here representing the applicant.
I'd like to invite him up, and
Yeah, let
I'm going
me.
to switch over to plans and
Yeah. Bear with me. There we go. And. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Joe Androlitis with Androlitis Mixon Architects. I think Pilar covered pretty much everything. I just wanted to give a little history on why we're here. My client, Andy Dowen, they submitted for a roofing permit back in 2020, and part of that scope was to cover a trellis on the west side of the property that's actually within the setback. So they realized after they submitted their plans that they needed to get a mod for the trellis to cover it. So we were researching what the best route was and what was the best long-term solution for them and for the adjacent parcel. So that's the main reason for the lot line adjustment, was to resolve the modification and then create that bigger buffer, because the house currently sits right on the setback. And we thought that they want to develop the other parcel in the future. So they understand, we researched the buildable area, and they're comfortable that they have a buildable area that they can develop in the future. And other than that, I think Pilar covered everything regarding the request for a lot line adjustment. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Androlitis. If I'd like to open up public comment for this particular item, 467 and 471 West Mountain Drive. Ms. Gu, do we have anybody joining us via Zoom who wishes to speak?
I do not see any raised hands for this particular item, and I have not received any written comment. Thank you.
Okay, and I can confirm that I haven't received any written correspondence, there's no one in the audience who wishes to speak at this time, so I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Wow, this is really, I appreciate Ms. Plummer, all the research that went into it, and probably a little bit of a nightmare project to start off with just a trellis cover and then have to address this. So this is just, it's a very dense, zoning intensive kind of situation. And I'm familiar with Mountain Drive. I did not go out on site, but I understand the context, and I also recognize that this project or this particular initiative did not require any kind of design review, because there's no project. This is really just lines and what's happening and how does all of this work together. So I again very much appreciate the very thorough review that Ms. Plummer did to walk me through our general plan policies, understanding the lot line adjustment. Mr. Androlitis, I appreciate the mapping out of the developable area. Can you pull that page up if you have it?
The exhibit?
Yes. It should be up top. Oh, it's on the site. At the tab at the very top, if you click on the one to the right.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could zoom in, and if you could just kind of walk me through a little bit of your thinking, that would be helpful.
So actually, there's a ton of easements on this property. So the first step was to kind of figure out which easements were no longer applicable. So that opened up the developable area a little more, because we were able to get rid of a couple easements. But right now, there's a little barbecue area right here, and then the trellis kind of covers it. So the property line was in that direction, or it currently sits in this direction. So the idea was to move the property line to allow for the elimination of a mod. And, if they were to develop this property and sell it to a third party, create more of a buffer between them and the residents next door. Because before, they're only 10 feet away from the property line, and then the other house could have been another 10 feet, so you're looking at 20 feet, which in this rural setting seems a little close.
That's close. It's definitely, it would be an odd situation.
So you can, this is just a rectangle house, so obviously would have multiple configurations that we could consider to make it larger, a little larger or smaller. But there is this easement that runs through, so that's why we showed the garage kind of detached on this side and then building the house in this little parcel here.
Okay.
There's still opportunity to probably go onto the hillside a little bit if we needed to.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. Ms. Plummer, I had a question about the timing of all of this, because there's no building permit. In terms of the driveway access and getting these documents recorded, and it's a little bit different when this particular property owner owns both parcels, but what we've seen nightmares before where these recordings never happen, and then we're in a situation where it's like it should have been done at that time. So I'm just very conscious of wanting to make sure that this is done properly as the conditions of approval are outlined in the staff report. And I just didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, Ms. Plummer, or kind of what if you've already talked to the applicant about time frame of what the expectation is with this.
Well, I mean, go ahead, but we're anxious to get it done because we have more development that we want to do.
On deck.
That's pending on
Got
this
it.
resolution. So
That makes sense.
they want to build an ADU and they want to revise the site wall at the street.
So it's in
So I
your
can't
best
really do
interest to
that,
make it all
so-
happen. That's helpful, and yes, because sometimes, again, it's just for one trellis, one thing, but again, we've seen these lost, and then it gets really complicated for future if something else. Okay, those were my only questions. Again, I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the presentation to identify the developable area, kind of being conscious and coming up with a long-term plan that makes the most sense, and kind of navigate that from a zoning perspective and clean it up. And I can go ahead and I'm going to go through them one by one as it's written in the staff report that, again, this project is exempt from further environmental review under 15305, minor alterations and land use limitations. For the lot area modification, so this is to allow parcel 1, which is 467 West Mountain Drive, to be granted relief from the lot area requirement of 1.5 acres for lots between 10 and 20%, and that it's consistent with the purposes of the general plan and zoning ordinance, because it does enhance the use of the lot for the single unit residence and housing that's identified. And then again, it ensures an appropriate improvement on the lot, because again, the lots, to make the parcel 1 larger, it makes it actually more conforming to the lot area. So I agree with staff's input on that. For the street frontage modification, kind of swapping one for the other. And again, I can grant approval of the street frontage modification to allow 471 West Mountain Drive, which is parcel 2, to be granted relief from that street frontage requirement of 100 feet minimum. And again, it's also consistent with the purposes of the zoning ordinance. And it's really kind of equitable distribution, and because the conditions of approval outline that there will be easement access to both parcels, that is embedded in this approval to know that that's going to be the case. And then, yes, I can approve this lot line adjustment as well for the existing lots for the area, because again, the approval of the lot area and street frontage modifications will result into something that does conform with our city's general plan and building and zoning ordinances. All of that said, it does come with the conditions of approval on the lot and everything that Ms. Plummer drafted here in the staff report. And I don't have anything to add, knowing that you've got other projects on deck, that it's in your best interest to make this happen. And I will say that my decision, anyone who thinks otherwise can appeal this decision, these approvals within the next 10 calendar days, and anyone from the Planning Commission could also pull and suspend my decision. But I wish you and your client well on all of your future endeavors, and thank you for bringing this to our attention. Hopefully everything goes smoothly from here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, and that, go ahead and close the staff hearing officer. We're adjourned for May 17th, 2023. Thank you.